Everyone, today we're going to make a coil butterfly using Model Magic. If you don't have Model Magic, you could certainly do this with any sort of air dry clay or even Play-Doh. You could do it with Play-Doh as well if you have Play-Doh at home. Now, one of the things we need to remember when we're making a butterfly, and this is from the Waiting for Wings Lois Ehlert book, is that they are symmetrical, which means that they're the same on both sides. So if I drew a line down the middle, which is called the line of symmetry, then this side and this side would be exactly the same. So if there's a dot here on this side, there's a dot in the same spot on the other side. You can count and they should be exactly the same. So when we're making our butterfly today, we're going to be making it symmetrically. So when we get started, you're going to want maybe 4 or 5 colors. If you are using Model Magic and you only have white, you can color the Model Magic with markers. So if I wanted to turn this into an orange, for example, you just kind of stretch it out and flatten it, and then you can add the color. And I usually do it a couple of times. So I color it and then I fold it, and I color it and I fold it and kind of press it down, color it again. That way you've got some layers of color sort of mixed in there. Now to mix it up, you want to kind of just stretch and fold it over and over until it becomes one solid color. You can also rip it and just keep sticking it back together, and that gets it nice and mixed up. So it doesn't take too long. Once you have your colors ready, and you want them to be about the size of like a big bouncy ball, or maybe think of the size of like 2 large grapes. Definitely smaller than a kiwi though. So when you have your colors ready, you also want either a piece of, you could do wax paper, you could use saran wrap, but it doesn't really work well for this. You could probably use foil and it would be okay. Freezer paper. So when you use this kind of paper, it helps to keep it from getting stuck on the table. And it also is going to help us to make a symmetrical shape for our butterfly wings. So my recommendation is either like a freezer paper or a wax paper. So you're going to get a piece and then fold it in half. And then once you've folded it in half, you're going to draw the wing shapes. So you can do more of a round shape like that, or you can do more of a square shape or a triangle shape. That's up to you. So you want it to be, I would say, the 2 wings together about the size of your hand. I wouldn't go too much larger than that. This one's a little bit bigger. It does take a lot more clay when you do it that way. And then you're going to cut out on the line. Don't cut the wings apart though. Try to keep the wing shapes together. Otherwise you might have to go back and tape it. Alright, so once you're done, you won't need the pencil and scissors anymore for that. So then when you open this up, you have the shape of the wings and kind of flatten it back out. If you don't like it, so for example, mine's really flat across the bottom, you could refold it and go back and adjust it. So I could go back and kind of take a little bit more off there to get more of a shape, and that's fine. All right, so I'm going to use that. So the first thing is we want to make the body, and we're making this in reverse. So what you're looking at here is actually the bottom when we build it. I had it like this, building it, and then this is what it looks like when it's finished. So take a piece and split it in half, and then you're gonna roll. I usually give it a few squishes and kind of knead it a little bit to get it to soften. But you want to actually roll this back and forth until it's a little bit wider. So right now it's not quite wide enough, a little bit wider than the center. So that's actually pretty good. And then you're going to press that down there, flatten it out a little bit, and that's going to be the body. Then I'm going to use the same color here to make the edge of the wings. You don't have to do it in the same color if you don't want to, but I like to. So this is going to be really important. We want it to be the same on both sides. So every time we do something, we have to remember we're doing it twice. So I'm going to pull this apart. So I have one for each side. And then I'm actually going to pull this in part again, so I have one for all 4 wings. These butterflies have 4 wings. That way I know that I have the same amount for all my places. Now I'm going to roll a coil. We're building this with coils, so I'm using the palm of my hand and I'm rolling it back and forth with my palm. My fingertips are bumpy. There's ridges from the joints in your fingers, so it doesn't work as well to roll with that part of your hand. And then I'm going to attach this and come around. Now if it's not long enough, you can usually stretch it a little bit and it's okay, but you do want to be careful not to get too thin. So I'm just going to kind of stretch it out a little bit. And if it doesn't go completely to the edge, that's fine. All right, so now I'm going to do the bottom wing. So I would usually say close to the thickness of a pencil is pretty good for this, because then if you have to stretch it a little, it won't get too thin. So I'm going to attach that there and then kind of make it into the point. All right, so there's one side. You can press them a little bit flat, but you don't want to flatten them too much. So now I'm going to do the other side. All right. If you end up too long on one of these, you can always just pull the piece off the end too. And then make sure you definitely press them onto the body pretty well. Just remember, this is the back, so you're not going to see these little things here on the front. All right, so now that I have my wings ready to go, I'm going to start filling them in with coils. So when I fill in with coils, what I'm doing is I can do these really cool swirls with the coils. I can do these folds. I can do them straight across. So I can add these different styles. I can even just use a coil around the edge and add that in. So when you start with a color, you're always going to want to kind of pull it apart in half. So right now I would have a piece for 2 wings. If I want the same color in all 4 wings, then I need to take each half and split it in half. So I have 4 pieces. So that's going to be important to remember while you're working, so that you have some to make a symmetrical design. So then when I make these coils, I can do a swirl. So once I make the coil, if I turn the end in like that, I just kind of keep rolling it. And you can use both hands if that helps. And that can make a nice swirl. And then you can place that where you want it. So I'm going to put it up here towards the corner, kind of attach it to the edge there. So then if I'm going to do that on one side, I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, because that's symmetry. It's the same on both sides. So then I'll make the same kind. So I'm going to roll it so it's a swirl or a spiral, and then add it here in the same spot. Okay, so now I've got yellow for the bottom wings. So I'm going to add that maybe a little bit differently. So for the bottom wings, maybe I decide to roll a coil and kind of follow the edge. So I can do it in different ways. And if I do it to one side, then I do it the exact same way to the other. All right, so now I'm going to move on to my next color. I think for my next color, I am going to use the blue. So again, I'm going to split it in half. So now I have half for each side, and then I'm going to split each half in half, so I have some of this color for all of the wings. And again, I'm going to roll some coils. So I'm going to do something for the top where it's like a fold. So I'm going to fold it back and forth, kind of like a zigzag almost too. And I'm going to add that in right here along the inside of the wing. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side for the other top wing. So it's kind of a fold back and forth like that. And then add it on. For the bottom wings, I think I'll go ahead and make the spiral and kind of fill in part of the center of that wing there. And do it right there. And it's okay if it overlaps a little bit, that's not a big deal. All right, so for my next color, I think I'm gonna do the red. So I'm gonna split it in half, and then each half gets split in half so I can use it on all 4 wings. And if it's feeling like it's drying out, Model Magic can sometimes feel like it starts to dry out. If you just kind of rework it a little bit and squish it, I say usually like 20 times, that helps soften it back up. So if it does feel like it's drying out a little, you can usually get it to soften back up. All right, so for this, on the top wing, I think I am gonna do the red here along the edge. So when I get to here, I'm actually gonna take it and hold that piece, maybe use it here on the bottom, and then I can use these other 2 pieces again on the top if I want. So I'm kind of lining this one up and then pulling it off. So then I think on the bottom here, I don't have a huge space left, so I'm just gonna use these leftover pieces and then make something that fits there. So I'm gonna take that extra piece off and kind of press that in there. Same thing on that side. You do it to one side, you do it to the other. So I've got these little pieces left here. I think maybe I could use these right along here, so I can kind of press those in. Just make sure you're keeping things touching. You don't want them floating, because then if you pick it up, it's gonna fall apart. So I have these extra pieces here. I might save these for later. I think I'm gonna fill in with this pink color. So I'm gonna split this in half. I don't need it for the bottom wings, so I'm just gonna use 1/2 of it. And I may not end up using that orange, and that's okay. So I think I'm gonna do another spiral for these spots right here. So I'm gonna roll a coil, and then kind of spin it, twirl it to make that swirl and kind of fit that in there. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. The spaces may not be exactly the same, but they should be pretty close. All right, so I still have these spots up here on the top. So I think maybe I will use this red. I'm gonna split this one piece in half. And I am gonna do just a little kind of piece to fit in there. So I think if I just press that down there, I might need this bigger one over here to kind of press that in. And then it should be pretty much finished so that I can flip it over. So when I think it's good, I kind of use my hand and press things tightly enough together that when I lift it up, it's not gonna fall apart. So then I'm gonna put my hand on it here, and I'm gonna flip it over and take off the freezer paper and set it back down. So now I'm looking at the front of it. So you can see everything kind of fits together a little bit nicer on the front. It looks kind of messy on the back. So at this point then, I can decorate a little bit more if I want. So I can make some eyes for my butterfly. I just roll some balls, try and make them kind of the same size there. Those are about the size of an M&M. And the eyes are actually kind of up here on the front. You can also decorate, so the butterflies a lot of times will have spots on them. You can kind of see that here. You just want to remember to do the same on both sides. So if I were going to use this pink, I'd probably rip up some small pieces first, and I would actually keep them really small, like about the size of maybe a little sunflower seed, or think of it like a crumb. You definitely would not want to make it bigger than an M&M, for example. So making these in advance is kind of nice, because then you can just start to place them the way you want them. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'll do 10 because I want an even number. And then when I roll these, I just use my fingertip to make the ball, but you want to roll it first before you put it on. So I'm going to decorate my butterfly's body a little bit. I'm going to use 4 of those here down the middle. And then I think I want to put one in the middle of those yellow swirls too. So roll it in a ball first, and then you can press it on. Another place where you see a lot of these spots on a butterfly's wings might be along the edge. So I might go in and put a few here. And then, of course, I can always make more. And they can be done in different colors too. So I could use some of my red. So there, I've got 2 on each side. So then I can come in maybe with a little bit of my red, kind of add that on. When you're putting these on though, if you want them to stick really well, make sure you're pressing them on enough, because if you don't press them on hard enough, it will dry and they'll have a tendency to fall off. If for some reason something falls off, you can certainly glue it back on with just something like Elmer's glue, and it'll work great. So I'm gonna do a couple more here, I think on the bottom wings as well. So I'm gonna put a red one right there on the tip, and then maybe one on each side of that. So I'm just kind of rolling these between my finger and my thumb right now. Just making sure they're small enough. All right, so there you have it. It's a coil butterfly made with Model Magic. Hope you have fun. I'll see you later.